Rogers on Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live on the Podbean app or desktop player. Just head over to www.podbean.com/LSW/TT Radio or search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TT Radio.
Now, welcome to the morning break. It might be that you're listening back to me as a podcast, as this is now 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning. It's no longer the summer holiday. A lot of people are back to work. A lot of people are preparing to return to work. So the likelihood is that you might be listening back to this show on the TTR website or on your favorite podcast platform. On today's show, I have two topics I want to discuss and talk about. I've got a couple of guests as well. The first topic is commutes and how we deal with those commutes. Because from my perspective, whenever I've kind of gone for jobs, and I think I've worked in, 8 or 9 schools now, I've had a multiple different types of commutes into work. Okay, so if I was to run through my own commutes for a second, 2008 when I started my career, or in fact, should I start on PGCE? Well, 2007 during my PGCE, first placement, 45-minute drive there and back. I remember thinking that was quite long at the time. But 45 there, 45 back, first placement. Second placement was about 20 minutes there and back, which was perfect, really. That was the sweet spot for me, 20 minutes. You know, I put a tweet out yesterday or a couple of days ago, and a lot of people were saying, I love driving for an hour and a half. It allows me to switch off. It allows me to reflect. It allows me to think. I know Tim is listening in. It says that he's in the live studio, which is wonderful. Good morning, Tim. Tim was saying that he commutes a ridiculous amount of time on a Monday morning and a Friday after school. I think it was like 2 hours or something. And then the rest of it, because obviously he's moving for work, I think. So Monday morning is this like epic drive. And Friday afternoon is this epic drive, but the rest of the time ain't too bad. But for me, it's like, yeah, I think my limit is kind of 30 to 40 minutes. I think once it gets past that, it starts to get, for me, driving wise, it starts to get, well, you have to get up earlier for a start. And I just hate early mornings. Talking of hating early mornings, yesterday was my first 6:15 alarm. So I'm sure everybody is experiencing the same thing after 6 weeks of no early get-ups to suddenly go to 6:15. It's like a cold shower yesterday. That's what that alarm sounded like. But anyway, that was my first 2 schools. So kind of 40, 45, 20 minutes. And then my first school as an NQT, and I was there for 5 years, was a really, really short drive. Good morning. Maya has texted in. Hello there. Hello there. Is it Maya or Maya? I'm sorry if I've got that incorrect. But yeah, we the first school I was at, I was there for 5 years, and I kind of changed where I lived 3 times during that 5-year period. So the first place I lived was a less than 5 minute drive, because I lived within the town where the school was. Now, that was brilliant in terms of like, I could get up at like 8 or 7:45 and still be, I remember one time I slept in and I still made it on time. I woke up and I was like, oh my God, I'm in big trouble here. I looked at my phone and it said, I think it said like 10 to 9 and the school day started at 5 to 9. And I just threw my suit on, got in the car, literally like broke the speed limits across the town, like probably made it in like 3 minutes. And then I was like 2 minutes late for form time or something. I was like, oh, sorry, I've just been dashing across from the staff room. And I'd literally just woken up. So it was an interesting one. And but I enjoyed it. I just oh, I've got a caller. Hello.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Thanks.
How are you doing? Are you doing well? Hello. Are you there? Oh dear, that didn't go too well, did it? I think what it is when the more friendly I am, the more people ignore me. That's kind of like where I'm at in my general interactions with people these days. If I'm really like, hey, good morning, how are you? They're like, oh my God, just get away from me, you're way too happy. Whereas if I'm like my normal self, which is really cynical and kind of like, oh, morning, then people are like, good morning, back to me. And I'm like, no, just get the tone. Like, go with like how I feel should be how you feel. You know what I'm saying? Probably not. Anyway, moving back to commutes, I still made it on time for school, even though I thought I'd slept in. And that tells you that your commute time is incredibly low. Talking of sleeping in, has anybody else out there ever slept in on their jobs? And did they get away with it? Maya, you've texted a few times. What about you? Have you ever like slept in and turned up late for your job and got in trouble? Or not? Maybe they commended you for it. Maybe they said, that's your oh, Maya's calling in. Hello, Maya. Yeah, but maybe they commended you for it. Or maybe I don't know. I mean, some people love that stuff. Maya, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Morning. You were laughing at me. I honestly, I thought my enthusiasm that previous caller was infectious.
No, it's okay. I got early today, and I mean, I just joined, and I heard you saying, I mean, you were talking about waking up early, and we started school yesterday.
Yeah.
Kids will join in 2 weeks from now, but we're just preparing for the new year.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Where are you? Where are you? What do you do? What do you teach?
Okay, I'm an English teacher, and I'm from Egypt. I'm working in an American school here.
Yeah.
In a primary school.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic. And so, how long have you been teaching there for?
It's been 6 years now.
Wow. Okay. And do you enjoy it?
Yes, pretty much.
So tell me your school routine then, in terms of going to school. Like what's your wake up time? What's your start time?
Well, you know, I'm a night owl, to be honest myself.
Oh, so am I.
But,
So am I.
yeah.
I hate
enjoy.
morning.
Yeah, I enjoy the night more than any time of the day, and I feel like it's my time. So now I have to just get back to before, and start waking up early and going to bed early, which is really really hard. But I'm trying to do it because we'll have to do it anyways because kids are coming back in 2 weeks. So we have to do it. Yeah.
Hang on a minute. You've still got 2 weeks off.
It's not off, but we come here only for trainings and getting ready with the plans, the annual plans, the weekly plans. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're still having some plans for the kids. When they come, everything will be ready.
And what
but they will come.
What are you looking forward to the most this year, and what are you looking forward to the least?
Actually, I'm not expecting much because we're still in the middle of nowhere. We don't know what's going to happen with the corona. I don't know how it's going to happen in like 1 month from now, because they're still thinking maybe it's going to be online. We go back to online teaching. So we're still not sure about it. You know, Egypt is in the red zone, and if we just if we feel like it's dangerous for kids to come to school, we have to do it online. But I don't hope so. Really, I wish they come back and things come back to normal.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I know Egypt presumably have been in lockdowns like we have in the last year or 2 years or whatever. You've had, all that kind of stuff is remote teaching and all that jazz. In the UK, we're actually kind of moving out of that a little bit now. We don't have masks now. There's no mask mandate in schools anymore from this week.
Yeah, same here.
Oh, same from that. Yeah. So it's kind of, it feels like we're coming out of it a bit. But again, you don't want to speak too soon, do you? In some cases, I don't think it'll be reversed here, but in many other places it could be.
Yeah, it could be. But,
Yeah.
I mean, we're taking the vaccines, and it's obligatory here. It's like everybody has to take it. And to be honest, I wasn't really. I still didn't take it, but I have to anyways. I know that I have to.
Why haven't you taken it? Get the vaccine.
Yeah, I mean, I will. My parents are really, really, really mad at me now because I didn't take it.
I'm mad at you. I'm mad at you, Maya.
Yeah, I can feel it now. But I'm planning to take it soon. I mean, I wasn't really sure if it's the right thing to do, but since everybody's doing it, so I have to anyways.
It's definitely, look, trust me, it is definitely the right thing to do. Get down there and get the blooming vaccine. There was actually another teacher I was speaking to the other week who also hadn't got theirs yet. I was like, why haven't you got the, what are you doing? Why haven't you got the vaccine yet? Get the vaccine. Anyway, so just finally, where do you actually live? Do you live in Cairo or a major city?
No, it's not Cairo. Cairo is the capital. I live in a smaller city called Hurghada. It's by the Red Sea.
Okay, lovely. And so what's your commute like? I mean, do you walk to work or do you drive or what,
Actually, I take the bus. The school bus comes to take me. So it's like 10
that's
minutes.
handy.
Just 10 minutes.
Are you allowed to get on that with the kids though?
Not with the kids. We have a separate bus for teachers.
Oh, now we're talking. Now we're talking. I should have taught in an American school, Maya. I swear down I should have. That was the biggest mistake I made. Is not getting a job in an American school. So hang on a minute. You get a bus that picks you up, goes around all the houses, or do you have to actually go to a stop?
Yeah. No. They come to pick me right from the house. Like,
oh my God, are you kidding me?
Yes, it's easy, and it's we don't pay for that, of course. It is all the school pay for this. But we don't get the best salaries. To be honest, it's not the best, but it's okay.
Oh, Farrokh Mockery has just texted in saying teachers are super responsible for students' health. Vaccine kills. I'm sorry you are helping with depopulation. Farrokh Mockery, do you want to get blocked from my show?
Oops.
No, I know. Don't worry. I won't block you, Maya. I'm enjoying talking to you. But I can't actually believe that you get a bus. That's absolutely amazing. Although, do you find though, Farrokh has just texted in saying I'm blocking you. Well, I mean, yeah, I've got some tissues here if I need to cry. But anyway, the only thing I'd say though is Maya that in the mornings when you are like on the bus, because with me, you said you're a night owl. With me, when I'm in the morning, I'm in such a bad mood. I don't want to talk to anybody. On the bus. No, seriously, I can't be doing with a conversation. So do people try and talk to you on the bus? Because I just wouldn't be talking to anyone.
I'll tell you what I'm doing.
I definitely wouldn't be talking to Farrokh on the
I'll
bus.
tell you. I'll tell you what I'm doing.
So
I have my sunglasses. Okay. And I have my earphones. Even if I'm not playing anything on it, but usually I have music. Okay. So I'm listening to music and with my sunglasses on. I'm not here. Like, you are not allowed to talk to me until I just go to school, take my coffee, half an hour, and then I'm okay. You can start talking to me.
Do you know what's really bad though? Sometimes, if that was me, I would probably put my shades and headphones on, but not have anything coming through the headphones, but just have the headphones on to make people think I was listening to something so I didn't have to talk.
Exactly.
How bad is that? It's bad. But funnily enough, I bet on the way home you're more talkative.
It's for their own safety. I mean, because if I don't do this, I'm so like in the morning, I'm so grumpy. I'm in this mood like I don't want to talk, or I can't talk for now. So until just I just realized, okay, we started the day, so I need to to start reacting and talking and maybe smiling. And I'm mostly I'm a cheerful person, but in the morning when I wake up, I don't want to talk.
No, I'm
for
exactly the same.
Yeah, for at least half an hour until I just realize what's going on around me.
And how long does it take the journey on the bus? How long?
So
Because
it's
presumably it
only,
must take a while because they have to pick up like loads of people.
I'm lucky because I live really close to my school, so it's like 10 minutes by bus.
But presumably there's some teachers on the bus who are on there for like an hour.
Yes, some of them. Yeah, some of them start so early, so they spend almost 1 hour.
Yeah.
And some of them actually they do stuff like they maybe work. Sometimes they have their laptops and they start working from the bus, which is too much because I mean in the morning I don't know. I mean luckily I don't have the first session, which is a bless. I don't have the first session because as I told you, at the beginning of the day I'm not the best person of myself. So
Yeah. And what do you teach again? English?
yeah, it's English.
And what's your day look like? I mean, how many lessons do you tend to teach a day? Is it 5 lessons a day or 4 lessons a day? Or
It's four lessons. I have two lessons. It's like grammar and vocabulary and reading, and the other 2 sessions will be conversation, speaking, and listening.
Okay. And how
Just like
many?
super skills. Yeah.
And how many are in each class? Like, what are I bet your class sizes are good. Well, they should be. I'm guessing.
Yeah,
But
we actually have like 15 students in each
that's
class.
good. That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah. And then, so what time do you finish school? You must finish quite early, I'm guessing, like 2 in the afternoon or something.
So we start 8. We start 8 in the morning, and then we finish 3 p.m.
Oh, okay. That's quite a long day, actually.
It is.
It's a relatively long day, but presumably you get some. I mean, how long are your lessons? Are they 1 hour each?
So each lesson is like 45 minutes, and then they get a break after 2 sessions.
Yeah.
They get a snack break, and then after 2 sessions, they get a lunch break. And they play in the playground, and they have PE sessions and art sessions. So yeah, it is fun. It is really
And how many kids are in your school in total?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But it's
a lot.
not a big school. It's not a big
It's
school.
not that big.
For each grade we have like 1 or 2 classes for each grade. So yeah, that's not a lot.
And do people, I mean, presumably because you work over there in the American school, I mean, presumably people in your city or town, are they do they look at your school and go, wow, the American school? I mean, are you like the creme de la creme? Are you kind of like the place everybody wants to be?
Yes, it is. It is actually like most people like to put their kids in an American school. It's the best here for education, for having fun, for everything, to be honest. But it's quite expensive for them, so it's not going to be the best.
Maya, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you this morning. Thank you ever so much. Thank you so much for calling in and keeping me company, because in the UK it's 9 a.m. Everyone started teaching, so I have the show on Teachers Talk Radio where nobody can actually be here live, apart from if you're in the other side of the world, like you, which is great.
It was a pleasure talking to you.
Can you do me a favor and make sure you subscribe to the website ttradio.org. Visit www.ttradio.org. I'll put that in the chat, actually. Yeah. I'll put that in the chat on the show. And go there and subscribe, and also drop me an email as well and say hi, because I'd love to have you on the show as a guest again, to talk about teaching in Egypt. Yep. Brilliant. I've got that. I will pop you an email. Brilliant. Thank you, Maya. You take care. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
That was Maya all the way from Egypt. You see, I do get my international callers. I do. And I love an international caller, I have to say. I've had callers from Somalia, Egypt, Kenya. Where else have Asia, Singapore, I think I had once. God, I've had callers from everywhere. Liberia, Libya. Yeah, we are a truly international show on Teachers Talk Radio. We love it. We love it. Now, Maya gets a bus to school, and it takes her 10 minutes. But I spoke to another couple of teachers who come into school in different ways and for different distances. And the first one is a teacher called Joel, who we are listening to now.
Morning, Tom. Just on the topic of commute times, my commute back in Liverpool used to take about 40 minutes in total, all through public transport, and it was kind of door to door. And I used to cycle through quite a lot of things. I used to try listening to a podcast. I used to maybe watch a YouTube video or something, but they didn't really work. I didn't really pay attention to them. But where I currently work now in London, my commute through public transport is about 25-ish minutes, about 20 minutes worth of bus and about 5 minutes worth of walk. And I fell into a good habit over the past couple of weeks of reading ebooks on my phone, and I've just kind of hoping that I'll be able to carry them on whilst on the bus, for example. Just talking about my morning routines, I used to be really good getting up in the morning, getting ready, getting my headspace ready before I left the house. But my first day back just did not go that well at all. I went to bed quite late. I woke up really early. I woke up about 5 o'clock, which is far too early for me. And then all of my stuff seemed to be scattered everywhere. So then I had to waste an unbelievable amount of time trying to find everything. But now, hopefully, that everything is in school, all of my stuff is there. Hopefully, we'll be able to just get up and go tomorrow, and fingers crossed, it will work.
Well, I have to say thanks to Joel for recording that for me yesterday about his commute. I have to say that I would struggle to read on a commute in the morning. I'd struggle to concentrate. I think for me, it'd have to be music or a podcast. For me, I mean, obviously, it's slightly different on a bus or a train. I had a text in from TSCW. Don't know your real name. I'm sorry. I could only ever work somewhere I could drive to. I would find relying on other forms of transport and having to stick to a timetable too stressful. Tim has texted in saying, same. I had to use the train when I broke my wrist, and I rely on a colleague to pick me up from the other end. Also, we had a text in from Ghana. What about a call from Ghana? Well, Adume, is it? I think that's your name. Well, call in. You know, I call in, tell me about your working day. You know, because that's basically what we're talking about. We're talking about our working days. We're talking about our commutes. We're talking about early mornings. We're talking about late mornings. We're talking about what we do to fill the time on our commutes. I mean, for me, so as I was saying, my first year of teaching there, or my first 5 years, I started off on a 5-minute commute. Then I moved, and then my commute became a 15-minute drive, 20-minute drive, maybe tops. Then I moved again, and it was a similar distance. It was about 25 minutes to get to school without traffic in the car. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that the 20-minute, the 25-minute. I actually prefer that to a 5-minute drive. And yes, I should have walked, but the problem is I worked in a community school and everyone in that town knew everyone. The moment it was like The Simpsons, you know that bit where they open the door and the guy goes, ha ha! It was like that. I opened my front door and some kid from the school go, ha ha! And I closed the door again. Because I was like, I don't want to see you or speak to you in the morning on the way to school. And the problem is you had to walk across the town to get to the school. So the likelihood you were going to bump into kids was like massive because they were just swarming around the school in the morning on bikes, walking. I just didn't want to walk or cycle. So it was always driving, but but it did take me less than 5 minutes, which is good. So also fun fact for you. Ella, who is a member of our Teachers Talk Radio executive team, still teaches at that school. So shout out to you, Ella. And her drive is similar. I think she has like a 5 or 10 minute drive or something to get to that school. Everyone in that school seems to have a very short drive, but who knows? So that was the first 5 years. Then I moved schools, and again I was on about a 20-minute drive for the next few years in my next school, and now we're moving forward to 2016 when I moved international, and I moved to Spain. And in my school in Spain, I used to get up about 7, and the drive was probably about 30 minutes, 35 minutes, yeah, 30, 35, usually about 30. Now, I have to say, my commute in Spain, and I lived in Vigo, was amazing because I had a Mazda RX-8 Sport. It wasn't a convertible, but it did have a very nice engine in it. And, you know, the Spanish roads with a Mazda RX-8, that was pretty cool. And I used to pick up a few teachers and kind of take them in and take them home. And yeah, I'm driving out the city, and you go up the coast road, and you had amazing views, and had the music on in the car. I had a really good stereo. That was probably my favorite commute because of the views. You know, once you were up high, you could see across the city, you could see across the bay. The sun was always out in Spain. It was just an amazing commute to do in the mornings. Okay, it was dark sometimes driving in at certain points in the year, but usually it was beautiful. And yeah, it was just the best commute. Then I moved to another international school in another country in Slovenia, and over there that was probably my worst commute, because the school day over there actually started at well, I needed to be in the school at 7:30 in the morning, and that meant, because I lived in the city and the school was outside the city, to get to the school I had to walk for 20 minutes, then I had to wait for a bus, then the bus took about 25-30 minutes, then I got off the bus and there was another 5-minute walk to the school from there. So all in all, basically it took an hour, which meant that I had to leave my flat at 6:30 in the morning, and I had to wake up at, like, I don't know, 5:30. I think my alarm went off 5:45. It was like a hardcore, like, that was the worst, because I'm not a morning person and I hate that. It wasn't fun. And then finally, coming back to the UK, I've had a mixture of, so I've done like 3 jobs since I've come back, to 3 contracts since I've come back to the UK. One of them was a walk of about 30 minutes back. That was quite cool. One of them was a 25-minute walk, 25-minute walk back. Again, enjoyed that. I like a walk to work. If a walk to work's possible, I'll do it, as long as you're not going to bump into kids all the time. And the third one is, like, my current contract is like a 25-minute drive. Again, fine with that. So most of my commutes I've been pretty lucky with. But do tell me, do text in. I've had lots of texts today, so do text in and tell me about your commutes and how you're getting on. And we'll be back after the Teachers Talk Radio news.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News with Megan Goods.
This is your latest Teachers Talk Radio News. As almost all UK schools will have reopened their doors to students following the summer holidays by the end of next week, the new COVID guidelines are causing concern. There will no longer be a requirement for schools to operate bubbles systems. Assemblies can return. There are no restrictions to mixing during break times, and social distancing is no longer expected in England. Voluntary asymptomatic COVID testing will be encouraged amongst secondary pupils, however, in a bid to continue to mitigate the spread of the virus. Scotland's recent rise in COVID cases in school communities has led many to fear the same will happen in England. Gavin Williamson, however, has encouraged the relaxation of measures, hoping schools will return to normality. School kitchens are being urged by wholesalers to pre-order their supplies and stock up on food. The expected shortage of food items results from the lack of HGV drivers. Food and drink chains, including McDonald's and Nando's, have already reported stock shortages this week. Finally, a school receptionist from Yorkshire has published a list of factors she said left students more likely to be unpopular with their teachers. The list, published in a national newspaper, included having a unique name, tardiness, incorrect uniform, and even domineering parents as reasons pupils may be prejudged. That was your latest Teachers Talk Radio News.
Creative Resources, made for teachers by teachers. At Creative Resources, we've been rethinking what a classroom can be. We've created a huge range of more than 2,500 original and exciting resources that span across more than 15 different subject areas. Whether you're looking for primary or secondary level resources, careers options, PSHE, arts, or humanities, Creative Resources have the resources for you. We offer full curriculum packages and unique, challenging escape rooms themed on topics such as Shakespeare, Tudors, and fractions. We have quizzes, task cards, Tarsier puzzles, and lots more. Better still, more than 100 resources can be accessed for free. Just visit our website, www.cre8tiveresources.com. You can get 10% off any order you make on our website by using the discount code TT Radio. Creative Resources, made for teachers by teachers. Every teacher loves stationery, right? Imagine getting a selection of fun, beautiful, and unique stationery items designed and selected especially for teachers, delivered through your door every month. You need to check out teacherslovestationery.club.
I'm always so excited when the box arrives. It's such a treat.
My Teachers Love Stationery Club box is just a little treat to myself every month.
It's always full of delightful and surprising items, including some really good quality stationery brands like Faber-Castell and Stabilo.
And because you never know what you're going to get, it makes it even more fun and special when you get it.
It feels really great to be supporting a family business that's run by real teachers. I can't help feeling like they just know what I'm going to enjoy using stationery-wise better than I do myself.
Visit teacherslovestationery.club and enter the code TT Radio when you buy your first stationery box to save £2 today. teacherslovestationery.club. Introducing the Leadership Masterclass series by Diana Osagi. Learn how to ditch your fears and develop your leadership confidence. How to deal with difficult colleagues. How to thrive when you lead in a challenging environment. And how to get colleagues to buy into your vision. Join Diana for her online leadership masterclasses starting on the 10th of July and running all the way through the summer. These sessions are the perfect way to prepare and refresh for the next academic year and beyond. Book your place at courageousleadership.co.uk/events. Live from Liverpool, this is the Morning Break with Tom Rogers on Teachers Talk Radio.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us this morning. We're talking about commutes into work and how we all get to work and get back without falling asleep, particularly the going, which is important. We need to be awake and alive when we're teaching in a school. Thank you, everybody, for joining me this morning live on Teachers Talk Radio. We've got loads more shows coming up for you today.
Live from Liverpool, this is the Morning Break with Tom Rogers on Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live on the Podbean app or desktop player. Just head over to www.podbean.com/LSW/TT Radio or search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TT Radio.
Thank you to everybody tuning in live this morning. We've got about 30 people listening. Thank you to them. And actually, we've had, I mean, it's been an interesting show. I've had Maya call in from Egypt, which has been lovely, talking about her commute to work to her American school over there. And interestingly enough, she was saying that she was more a night owl than a morning owl. And that's exactly like me. My routine is messed up. Like, I will happily stay awake until midnight, 1 a.m., get up at 7, and then have a nap when I get back from school, and then stay up late again. And that's a really bad routine, right? I mean, I wouldn't recommend that routine to anybody in their right mind with teaching, because you just end up absolutely dead by the time you get to school. Now, we heard from Joel earlier, and I spoke to another teacher called Kirsten, who shared her experience of driving a ridiculous amount of miles a week. Let's see how she copes with that.
Hi, my name's Kirsten. I live in South Cumbria and travel to Preston, which is 144 miles round commute every single day, about 700 miles a week. My top tips are to have a hot drink with you in the car. That always works for me, lots of caffeine. Although decaffeinated is just as good. I also like listening to cheesy pop. So today's choice was McFly. I love listening to musicals and their songs, particularly Hamilton, Wicked, Six. And I also love listening to a podcast called Help I Sexted My Boss, which the UK's leading etiquette experts and Jordan North from Burnley/Preston present, and they listen to the listeners' problems and give their best advice, which can be sometimes quite controversial because they're both from very different backgrounds and have very different beliefs. Hopefully that helped you, and thanks for listening.
Hey, I cannot recommend listening to the podcast Sexting Your Boss. I can't recommend that. And no one on Teachers Talk Radio can endorse that, Kirsten. But it does sound fun. It sounds hilarious. A few podcasts I've actually listened to recently, which I would recommend. The Independent Teacher podcast with Susan Pallister is good. She's released one episode so far, but I know there's more to come, and I enjoyed the first one. Funnily enough, it was talking about the menopause, which is not something that necessarily I can relate to personally, but it was very, very interesting to hear the interview that she had on there on episode 1. And also, I would recommend a Drop in the Bucket podcast. They've got an amazing interview with Flora Cooper this week, and you should check that out, because Flora is an inspirational head teacher, an inspiration within the education sector in general. So if you do have an opportunity to listen to that podcast, I'd highly recommend getting over there, listening. It's about an hour, but it's worth it. Now, in terms of Teachers Talk Radio, flipping out, we got some good shows coming up. We got Seb Ventura at 4:00 with Phil Beadle, talking about cultural capital and talking about kind of how to, I guess, build a reading culture, a kind of building a cultural capital within the school community, I guess would be the content of Seb's show at 4:00. That's 4:00 BST, British Standard Time. So if you have an opportunity at 4:00 to tune into Teachers Talk Radio, then that is the show to listen to. We've then got Leanne at 6 p.m. on Twilight, and 8 p.m. we've got Genevieve with the Late Show. So we basically got shows all the way through from 4 until 9:30 p.m. BST today. And then tomorrow morning, Kate Jones is with Sam Friedman, which is going to be absolutely intriguing. Listen, Sam Friedman, who is an education advisor who's worked closely with Michael Gove and others. I know, because Kate's told me, that there's some hilarious bits from that interview. So do listen to that. That's at 7 a.m. tomorrow BST. And then 9 a.m. tomorrow is the morning break with Dorian. So do check out all of those shows coming up over the next 48 hours on Teachers Talk Radio. And do pop over to the website. If you're listening now, it'd be great if you could subscribe at ttradio.org. Check out the website, press subscribe, enter your email, and you will get our amazing newsletters and other updates on what we're doing on Teachers Talk Radio. Now, I was going to actually talk about routines, and that was kind of going to be the second part of my my show today, and I would like to spend the next 10 minutes talking about classroom routines and what we do when students start school. So in other words, how we approach a new class, what we do with the new class to get them ready to learn. Now, obviously it's changed a little bit with COVID, because the last year I haven't had my own classroom. So I've been moving from classroom to classroom. This does make it more difficult, in my opinion, starting with a class, because you can't kind of say, this is my, I think there's a psychological element of saying, this is my space and you're coming into it. Whereas if a teacher is moving from one classroom to another, it's almost like you're a guest in the student space. It makes it a little bit more difficult. And I definitely think there's a psychological element to that. And that's why I think the majority of schools have gone back to try and seek solutions where they can have their teachers in their own classrooms again. But if, for example, you're not in that position, then there are still things that you could do to set the stall out. So for me, back in the day, one of the things I always did was have them line up outside. I had them enter in the room in silence. On the very first lesson, I had them all stand at the back, and then I put them into a seating plan. Usually I'd have drawn up the seating plan in advance, but sometimes not. Sometimes I'd just have them, I'd see them there. I'd look at them and I'd be like, right, you can sit here, you can sit here. And I'd do it that way. And then I'd write the seating plan. And then I'd tell them very clearly, this is a flexible seating plan. This seating plan is not set in stone. So this could change week on week. It will change. I said it will change, because what you don't want to get into a situation is people saying, well, you sat me here in the seating plan and, I'm not moving. So, it's very clear to say, look, this seating plan will be changing. Now, obviously, if you're worried about a class, you could go for a boy, girl seating plan. That'd be unpopular, and it would depend on what you wanted to do. But if you were worried about a class, then that is an option. It's something that you could look at. And then what I tended to do was and I made that kind of start, that first 5 minutes, quite business-like. And I'd say lots of thank yous and pleases, and I tried to learn some names straight from the outset and address them by those names, and kind of create that atmosphere of, you're entering my classroom. This is my domain. I'm going to run this room, and I'm going to kind of set my stall out from the opening minute. Now, sometimes it's not going to work out like that. Sometimes you might have a disruption to deal with. Sometimes there might be some distraction that needs dealing with. So it can't always work out in that way. Teaching never works the way you want it to work. Something will always go wrong. Something will always happen. That's what makes it an interesting and exciting job. But equally, it also makes it incredibly challenging. So once I've got them into the room and I've got them into the seating plan, it's then obviously time to start my first lesson with them. And usually what I would do is I'd go through the classroom expectations. Now, interestingly enough, everyone seems to have different versions of classroom expectations. And I remember when I first started teaching, I had my kind of 5 pillars in the classroom that I used to pin up above the board so every student could see them. Things like, don't talk while the teacher is talking. Things like, respect each other's opinions. Things like, listen carefully, and so on. And there were 5 of them above the board. And as time's gone on, I read something yesterday where somebody had tweeted that they had 3 things, and they were very, very simple, like work hard, be respectful. It was like 3 things that were super kind of simple. Shivam is texted in. Hi, Shivam. Shivam Sa 630. Hi, good morning. So it might be that, you don't need that many rules. It could be the less rules, the better. I know some teachers who have 10 rules. They have things on the rule list like be punctual and so on. And great. I think there's no problem however many rules you have. Like for me, I like to have 5 or less just because it keeps it succinct. But I think it's good to go through those expectations. And one thing that I also think is good is to give the students a bit of ownership with those. So I used to do this activity called Sabotage by Paul Guinness, where they kind of think about who is responsible for different behaviors. And essentially the objective of this sabotage activity is that they realize that a lot of it, you know, they are responsible for their own learning, and they can also help and be responsible for other people's learning in the room, and they can support the teacher. And interesting enough, I often ask them, you know, do you want to do well, and raise your hand if you do, and every hand goes up. You know, I've never had a class where a student says, you know what, I want to fail. I don't want to do well in this class. I don't care. I've never had that in a whole class situation. I've had it when students are annoyed, or when you've had a conflict with a student. They say, I don't care. Right. Of course I've had that. But I've never had it at the start of a lesson where I've said, oh, raise your hands if you don't, if you care. Every student cares. Every student wants to do well. No student wants to go to their parent and say, or guardian, and say, oh, you know what, I failed. I haven't done well. No student wants to do that. So with that in mind, I kind of say, well, you know, you're responsible for your own learning. You're responsible for your own behavior. And I'm going to help and support you in what you've just said that you want, because you want to succeed. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do my best to do that. And again, it's about responsibility, and maybe putting that responsibility onto them rather than the other way around, of them kind of expecting you to kind of entertain them every lesson and so on. So it is about messages. Some of them are subliminal in the first lesson. Some of them are more, you know, explicit and kind of straightforward, like the expectations that you expect. You're kind of red lines. And every teacher will have the red lines. I mean, if you're listening now, do text in. What are your things that you're like non-negotiable on, that you just will not tolerate at all? Every teacher has a red line. So for me, I try to keep the red line of, you're not going to talk while I'm talking. If a student talks while I'm talking, then I will absolutely address it every single time. I won't ignore that. Now, obviously, that's incredibly difficult if you have a class where you've got like 8 or 9 students who are talking over you. It's incredibly difficult to keep that red line. But the fact that you try and aim for that red line, I think is the most important thing. And obviously this depends on context. You know, we heard from Maya earlier, who has class sizes of like 15. So in that context, it's probably okay to have some kind of cross classroom discussion, a bit more collaboration. Maybe it's a bit more of a university seminar feel. As a high school teacher with 30 plus students in the room, where you are where a lot of them maybe don't want to be there, then particular routines and systems are absolutely essential. Like if you don't have them, then it's going to be potentially a struggle. And I think one of the important ones is not talking while the teacher's talking. Now, again, there'll be lots of different routines that you try and embed in. Some teachers have routines around delivery of books at the start of lessons. I saw a famous clip from Michaela Free School in London, where with the kind of opening of the books at the start of the lesson takes them about 30 seconds. You know, they know exactly what to do. Now, that is one example. It could be that your start of the lesson routine might be a kind of a do now task. You know, like you have 30 seconds every lesson to do this task. That's where it is. Pick it up from there. It's a piece of paper with a quiz on. Pick it up from there. That is what we're going to do every single lesson at the start. Now that can be quite hard to plan for, but very helpful to have that do now task and for them to know a routine. And then that then allows the teacher to take the register and get prepared, get settled while those students are doing something for 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes, perhaps a quiz or something. And then you could mark the quiz and then you could go on with the lesson. I think it's important to think about that first 2 minutes of the lesson. And that's something that I've utterly failed on since the lockdown, because since we've come back from the lockdown and I've been going around classrooms, I found it incredibly difficult to plan ahead. I found the start of my lessons have been much more disjointed, disrupted. I've walked in, sometimes I've been a couple of minutes late because I've had to come from another class across the school. You know, there are certain issues there for teachers that make it, if you're in your own classroom, you can set your stall out. And that really does help in terms of teaching, in terms of teaching and learning. So I guess my bottom line recommendation is to think about your classroom routines, to think about the steps that students are going to take when you arrive or they arrive into the lesson, and kind of writing them down and formulating them. It's certainly something I'm going to be doing. I'm back to teaching tomorrow, and I'm going to be thinking really, really carefully about, you know, what my routines are, what systems and approaches I'm going to take with the classes, and generic approaches from one class to another, you know. And sometimes it won't work, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, you can go back and kind of try again if you like, and just keep going with that system and keep trying to embed it. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, you know what, that hasn't worked, that lesson, but, you know, I'll tweak the system, or I'll keep the same system and try again next time. I think that, you know, it's important.
Every teacher loves stationery, right? Imagine getting a selection of fun, beautiful and unique stationery items designed and selected especially for teachers, delivered through your door every month. You need to check out teacherslovestationery.club.
I'm always so excited when the box arrives. It's such a treat.
My Teachers Love Stationery Club box is just a little treat to myself every month.
It's always full of delightful and surprising items, including some really good quality stationery brands like Faber-Castell and Stabilo.
And because you never know what you're going to get, it makes it even more fun and special when you get it.
It feels really great to be supporting a family business that's run by real teachers. I can't help feeling like they just know what I'm going to enjoy using stationery-wise better than I do myself.
Visit teacherslovestationery.club and enter the code TTRadio when you buy your first stationery box to save £2 today. teacherslovestationery.club.
Good morning again. We're closing into the last few minutes of the morning break this morning with me, Tom Rogers, on Teachers Talk Radio. We've been talking about classroom routines, setting up your classroom for a new year, welcoming new students. One thing that came to my mind when I was thinking about this was not being afraid to use the sanction system, the warning system. You know, don't be afraid to kind of use that. It's there to help. Don't feel like, all right, because it's the first lesson or two, I need to be nice. I need to not use the system. I need to try and be friendly with them. You know, I don't think you do. I think you just follow the systems. I think you just need to follow the approach you're comfortable with. And don't be afraid of kind of saying, you know, like, you're pushing it too far. It may be the first lesson or the second lesson, but I'm going to have to use the sanction system here. You know, the sanction system is there as a fallback option. Yes, you're going to have lots of strategies and assertive techniques that you're going to use before resorting to sanctions, but there's nothing wrong with resorting to sanctions if a student is making that choice repeatedly to disrupt or to cause a problem, even in the first lesson. And actually, them knowing that you know what that sanction system is and that you are willing to use it is a good thing in itself, because they're going to know from that point on, Sir knows what he's doing. Miss knows the system. She knows what, you know, she knows that we can't push the boundaries too much here because we know what's going to happen. IYS8 is texting. I agree, not talking over the top of others, and hands up is a red line for me. I also for the students to enter calmly and leave row by row or table by table. I completely agree. I think systems like that can help loads. And yeah, I think there are some red lines. And I was just asking before the ad about your kind of red lines, you know, the things as a teacher where you just will not tolerate it. And one of those things for me is like talking over the top of me. That's something I'm going to have to say no to, like, at all times. There's other things where you may use common sense a bit more. You may tactically ignore certain things. You know, if somebody is kind of doing something that is not disrupting the class, then perhaps your approach is going to be different to something that is like directly stopping you from teaching. You know, I mean, every teacher is going to be different. Every teacher is going to have their red lines. Every teacher is going to have their own approach to things, which they are going to enact, you know? So I mean, good luck is what I'm saying, because all of us all of us teachers are going to be starting back very soon, imminently, perhaps today, perhaps tomorrow. Perhaps you're listening back to this as a podcast and you've already started. Well, I hope it's gone well. And I hope that you are starting to establish the routines. And it will take a series of lessons to get to know a class. I always think it takes me like 6-8 lessons really with a class to get into a position where I feel like I know them a bit, where I'm starting to feel comfortable and starting to feel like I've established some of those routines. 6 to 8 lessons. Good morning, Cavalier DL. Sorry, I can't read your username very well, but texting in saying this morning, thank you for texting in, and you are welcome, and thank you for listening to Teachers Talk Radio. So that was my chat on commutes and routines. Next Thursday at 9 a.m. BST, I'm joined by Michael West, MBE. Michael has done a lot of work with the NHS at a leadership and executive level, looking particularly at compassionate leadership. So I'm really excited to be joined by him next week as a guest. And I'm going to be asking him about all the different methodologies behind compassionate leadership. In other words, what they do within the National Health Service in the UK at an executive level to make sure that leaders, managers, teams, and organizations within the NHS kind of look after each other and act in a way where they can retain staff. Because I think there are lessons that the education sector can learn, because I'm not entirely sure that there is compassion seeping through the school cultures of a lot of schools in the UK. Internationally, it may be different, but in the UK, I think there's a real issue with kind of this kindness and compassion and care and kind of focus on well-being. So it'll be good to talk to Michael next week about that. Really excited. Join me again, 9 a.m. BST next week. Thanks for joining us this morning on Teachers Talk Radio.
Live from Liverpool, this is The Morning Break with Tom Rogers on Teachers Talk Radio.